Welcome to 52 at 52. I'm Matt McDowell, and this is no longer really 52 at 52. Full disclosure, I'm no longer 52, and I've got more than 52 jobs, and so I'm going to press on. I'm going to press on till the end. You know, I have taken a bit of a break, almost a year now. You know what? That's not a good idea because it's just like starting over again. I can't even remember what the last job was. That's how long it's been. But this is job number 30. Welcome to job 30, Woodworker. I kind of want to encapsulate, like, oh, this was the bing, this was the ba, this was the, we cut to our hero, unemployed in Provo, Utah, helping put his wife at the time through hairdressing school. And I'm in this tiny little house, and it has no furniture. And I go to the library, and they have this, like, you can furnish your house for $10 or something. I got a crosscut saw, some chisels, and a hammer, and I start making the furniture out of this book. Around the same time, I was at my friend Russ, his house, and he had this cool furniture that he had made it. These cool chairs, and they had through tenons with a little locking. We had a locking mechanism. They were locked through tenons. That's the official, I think, locked through tenons. And I'd never seen a mortise and tenon joint before. And I was like, these chairs are fantastic. They're super comfortable. They've got this cool mortise and tenon joint that I can see. I want to make those. So armed with my crosscut saw and my 1/8-inch chisel, and a tape measure and some pine, I made a couple chairs. If you've ever ripped a 2x6 with a crosscut saw, you'll know that I was not on the cutting edge of technology. I was like stone knives and bear skins. Also, at the same time, I'm watching some TV, as you do when you're unemployed, and PBS, because education. And they had this show on. They had two shows. One was called The Woodwright Shop, and one was called The New Yankee Workshop. And the Woodwright Shop, he was this old school guy, and he would do, everything was hand tools. There was nothing circular. Everything's like, okay, we're going to make a spring pull lathe. It was old school, like, no drills. Everything was hand, what are those things called? What do they call those things? Brace and bit. He'd have the brace and bit. That's the brace and bit, right? This is the brace and the bit. Anyway, everything was really old school. And I'm watching this like, oh, I can make stuff. And at the same time, I'm watching the New Yankee Workshop with Norm Abrams. And that was, let's just trick everything out and get the coolest tools there are. In fact, years later, I met Norm Abrams at the LA Woodworking Convention. And he was there signing autographs. And I'm like, well, I got to get an autograph from Norm Abrams. And so I wait in line, which seems kind of funny to wait in line to get an autograph from Norm Abrams, the New Yankee Workshop guy. But I did. And as I get up there to get my thing, I go, hey, Norm, I got a joke for your show. He goes, oh, yeah, what's that? I go, before you begin any sort of woodworking project, you need to go out and buy a new tool. And if you don't need to buy a tool, you've picked the wrong project. And you know what? He laughed. He thought that was pretty accurate. I don't think he ever used it on the show, though. So I go to the library, I start making this stuff, and I'm having a great time, and I'm like, I really enjoy it. And then I cut to the summer, and I go back to Gridley, California, and suddenly my dad has a table saw and people have drill presses. I'm like, holy smokes, this is like the New Yankee Workshop. And so I start really getting into stuff. And my brother, he hires me to make a table. I totally forgot about this. He has this very specific kind of table in his print shop that he wanted to make with a glass top. And so I kind of start making that. I'm at the California State Fair, and I'm walking down the aisle. It sounds like I'm getting married. I'm at the California anyway, I'm walking down the aisle, and on one side there is Encyclopedia Britannicas, and you can get them, and they'll the guy's hard sell, and he's like showing you this stuff. Like, yeah, Encyclopedia Britannicas, that'd be such a great investment since I don't have a job or anything. I'd love to get somebody Encyclopedia Britannicas. But on the other side, there was this guy selling Shopsmiths. Now the Shopsmith is this all-in-one woodworking tool. It's got a lathe, it's got a drill press, it's got a table saw stuff, and the guy's in there making stuff, and he's using a scroll saw, and he's making these chairs, these tiny little figurine chairs. And I'm just like, this is fantastic. And they're both about the same price. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I guess I have some money that I want to spend at the state fair, and I'm thinking, maybe I should get these Encyclopedia Britannicas. Maybe I should get this. I'm telling the Shopsmith guy, I can't decide between the two. He goes, look, buy the Shopsmith. That way you can make book cabinets to hold the Encyclopedia Britannicas. Good for him. That's a good salesman. Anyway, my dad comes up and he goes, look, he goes, don't buy the encyclopedias. We bought encyclopedias once. It's not, don't do that. And he goes, but if you buy the Shopsmith, I will hire you to make an oak cabinet for my stationery store. All right, so boom. Next thing I know, I'm making an oak cabinet, not cabinet, counter. It was really nice, and because he wanted specific things. He wanted this to be low, and he wanted the he had very specific, it was custom. It was all custom did. It was bespoke, as we say in England, since we're not in England. But bespoke, that's custom made anyway. So I made bespoke furniture. My mom wanted new kitchen cabinets, and she's like, Matt, can you make us the kitchen cabinets? And again, I've learned from books that you can make anything. And so I get a book, and it's like how to make kitchen cabinets, and I am making kitchen cabinets just like that. Well, it was a lot of work, but I made these nice white oak stained kitchen cabinets, and then I ended up making these shaker tables, these kind of shaker tapered leg tables. It was just kind of a nice clean design. And I ended up selling 2 of those to people who just saw them. I just made them for myself, and people were like, hey, that's nice. Can you make me one? I'm like, sure, well, actually, you can have that one. And I made another one. And it's like, hey, I just sold a couple of those tables. And the list goes on. Like, I made a bookcase. Somebody wanted a leaf for their table. I made my friend Russ, full circle, made my friend Russ, who had these chairs with the mortise and tenon. I made him some picnic benches and a picnic table. And then the benches were long. They were like 8 or 7 feet long. The whole table was really long. So that was a lot of fun. And profitable. Well, I'm not sure if it was profitable. I became an expert on woodworking. I'll say that. I don't say I'm an expert in a lot of stuff. I'm not like super high-end craftsman, but I know my way around, making furniture. I've made end tables, a headboard. I made this table right here. I made that. There's a desk right over there that you can't see. I made that desk. I made a dictionary cabinet that holds an Oxford English dictionary. That's downstairs. You can't see that either. I'm just pointing different things. You just have to use your imagination. It's like radio. I made an entertainment center, a bunch of tables, 2 chairs I originally made. I made 2 more with the mortise, the through mortise and tenon. Kayaks, which was a lot of fun because usually you sit at tables like, okay, but when you make something that you're gonna take out onto the lake or the ocean, this is not just for goofing off. Like, rarely do you like drown at a table. But there's something about going that hard, that coming home with just a bunch of pieces of wood, and there's just like these, they look like nothing. And then in the course of a few days, suddenly you've got a beautiful table or a chair or something that was just like, it's almost like something from nothing. I never got into the cutting your tree down and drying your own wood. That would be even cooler. I made a workbench, with a vise. Now, I did get paid for all those things, but I did get paid for some of them. And so that's why it qualifies for here. And I still have the Shopsmith, thinking about selling it. But I do love woodworking. The time flies by. The hard part is I get a little tense up. I get kind of, I guess, when you're doing your stuff and your body gets all tense woodworking. But at the end of the day, it's very satisfying work. It's one of those things where like, oh, why don't you just become a woodworker? Partly because I would see, you would go to these places like the LA Woodworking Convention, and you would see how much you could never compete with how cheap mass-produced furniture is. Unless you're like super high-end, or you're some sort of amazing craftsman, or you're like some sort of artist. And I was never any one of those. I was like just kind of a journeyman, kind of, I can make you stuff. It looked nice, and people go, oh, that's very nice. But it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to charge you $10,000 for this piece of whatever. So, wow. I think we're done. Hopefully I can cut this down so that it's watchable. Anyway, thanks for watching 52 at 52. This was Job 30, Woodworker. And I would say to tell your friends or subscribe or something like that. But basically, everybody who's subscribed or any of my friends, they're already locked in. So disregard everything I just said, except for the woodworking part. That I want you to keep that close to your heart. Geppetto. Come on, Geppetto, right? Okay, did it.